Hello, welcome back to CSCI 380, a web programming and interface design. And today we will talk about some history of internet and then how it's going to be change. And we of course will talk about some standards and protocols. Okay, just a kind of like backgrounds of internet. Of course I will cover a little bit about the whole structure of internet. So give you the better idea, or you can have a better picture. Okay, like everything we are doing. Okay, and kind of like beginning with this, when we ask the question, how does the internet work? Um, we need to know everywhere we do have the standard common standard like overall set. So for example, we do have a TCP IP. So if you heard about that, when we talk about different layers, and then for different layers, and we do have their own standards, okay, and all the internet, okay, so able to connect between the computer networks across the world, okay. So that's why sometimes we heard the World Web or World Wide Web. Okay, and then we of course the internet designed for exchange data and information. That's the purpose. Okay, in the beginning. Okay, and then we ask a question: what's the World Wide Web? Okay, so sometimes we call it like the WWW. Okay, and it's the global scale, we call it World Wide Web, okay, WWW, and then it's distributed hypermedia application. So we do talk about the client server architecture. So the client will be the edge, sometimes we call the edge, um, desktop, laptop. Okay, nowadays we have our cell phone, mobile phone, right? And then tablets or some headless devices. Okay, and then server side. And our server, we have different type of server, okay, including maybe a long time ago we have the like web server, now we have some like media server, database server, whatever, okay, all this. And all the resources, they are transferred using called the URI, Uniform Resources Identifier. And then the one we always talk about is the hypertext transfer protocol. So if we talk about HTTP, P also is protocol, okay. And when we have some World Wide Web developed kinds, and also we're using browsers, a different type. Let's say the right now for Windows, we have the Edge, and long time ago it called the IE Internet Explorer, already failed. And then we do have Mac, like Safari. Okay, maybe you know Google Chrome. It works on different type of platform. Firefox. Okay, and nowadays we have different type of browser too. Okay. And all these they maybe have some like supported communication standard and then software system. So all this from the World Wide Web that we talk about. And we try to search sometimes if we're looking for some package or looking for the our location server in online. There's a lot. Later we can cover and pretty common some if you learn computer network or maybe other courses, they will cover this part. Sometimes when we try to convert your domain, okay, server, and then also convert to the IP address, we use a lot. Like we can use the called the NS lookup. Okay, so all these or the geo like trace route, all these we can check which the from each node to another node. Okay, so what's this things like this? Okay, and all this will be related to the internet. And for the nature, of course, like we try to connect each other together, and then the purpose is like try to communicate. Okay, so we need to like share the information. Okay, so all the is internet, so it's the internet of the wide area network. So we call it as a WAN. Okay, sometimes you heard about WAN, LAN. So this one, the wide area networks. Okay, so for the WAN, we always come with the gateways, okay, between them. Okay, so we do have gateway. If you put it common, C is the router. So we talk about router. Of course, sometimes in computer networks, we're using gateway to talk about that because we have different, only like pure router. Okay, so they can be just only the gateway we are going to use, and then they will kind of based on they come and use the TCP/IP protocol. Okay, TCP, and then IP is the IP address. And then also we will able to see that those when also supporting the standard application service, like let's say a DNS, domain name server, email, web, all this. Okay. And here's a key idea of the internet. Is the internet, we have no central operation room or global operation manager. So each node connected. Sometimes we say they connect to each other, and then they do have their IP address. Okay, so those hosts, as I say, the hosts, they do come with the IP address. And some of the internet hosts maybe have their own domain name. Okay, so that's why we need a DNS server, domain name server, help us to convert the domain name to IP address later to domain name. Okay, later in the lower level layers. Okay, so you will see some example of it. So here, one thing we need to learn about the website when we implement, if you already create the AWS host or later we put in, if you know the domain, okay. Domain is easier because they are some like character, okay. So some meaningful words, okay, formed together. So it will be easier for us to remember, okay. For IP address, it's really hard, okay. So that's why we using the domain name and then they translate to IP address, okay. This is how it working in the internet world. Okay, and we can search it some like online IP checker, checking DNS to find it. Okay, so or like if you want to check your own ID, we can use the ident.me. Okay, so all these can help us to check the IP. And if you as well as say like if we using a NS lookup in different command line, we do have different form. Okay, maybe some keywords for Windows or right here, let's say we search for the Google, okay, google.com right here. So you is able to find, okay, so maybe what's the possible server. Of course, like Google, they do have lots of server, maybe not that good. Let me copy the one, let's say let's create a new one. I'm thinking, okay, let's go to release campus. Okay, right here. Okay, so test it. Let's get it. Try. It couldn't find this domain, which a domain maybe blocked, so we cannot find it. And maybe we can try another one, maybe commerce. Let's try commerce domain. Right now I have some annex domain error I couldn't show you, but you can try to search it and you will list like the it can convert the IP address. Okay. Or of course we do have some like um um online IP checker. Okay. Then you can like input it and sometimes you can search it to getting what's the IP address and or like the IP lookup so we can find it and you can try to use it to find more details about this one and later if you do work on it then we can try to use other tools to find the IP address. And when we move on, so what's like some like who will regulate the internet? Okay, so sometimes we will know like who's like IETF, ICANN, ICC, ICNN, or ISOC. So all these belongs to one is called the Internet Engineering Task Force. Okay, and there was an Internet Corporation for assign name and numbers. Okay, and also the Internet Society. Okay, like this. And if you try to buy a domain, let's say if we go there, okay. Okay, so if you want to purchase a domain, sometimes you will see it will require the this service provider, okay, register, will ask you, okay, you need to validate your address, contact information to pass it to the ICANN, okay, let them to validate you, or like they always need to update your information. So just need to know, okay, they do some organization helping to like organize or regulate the internet, okay, and how actually, because we talk about TCP/IP, especially because we are working on the web programming. Okay, so we touch a lot like TCP, TCP/IP or this standard. Okay, so we need to have some like basic idea. We can view it as kind of like sometimes we talk about 7 layers, and right here just showing you as a four-layer structure. Remember, we have got the application layer. So when we most of the time when we um, work on it, will be the HTTP. Okay, so we're using the HTTP protocol. So those will be the portions. Okay, and then in the transport layer, so it's a TCP. So it is the protocol we are going to use, and then going down we have the internet layer IP, and the link layer will be really physical layer, so connection. Okay, so when they sending from the client to server, or server respond to the client, so it will be same. So from the application layer, we have the from the browser go down like using the TCP, and then go down to IP through the LAN, and then LAN convert to IP. So maybe right here we do some like level 2 switch, or maybe we're level 3 router. So all this. So sometimes when we call like level 2 or level 3, just like based on the level, sometimes they only work on the actual address, or they will convert it to the IP. Okay, MAC address or IP. So they will determine it by which layer. But for more details, maybe we're going to cover in the computer network. But here you just need to know, like here, process to process is the application layer, and then from which host to which host will be the TCP. So which port we're going to open for this protocol like this. And here's the architecture, so you can see. And right here, all these like layers, they do have different functionalities. Okay, so for the application interface, so they would be directly okay with the user applications, or like for the user. Okay, and then for the transport end to end, so we have they are kind of sometimes we can be reliable the delivery. So we have TCP. If for unreliable, so will be UDP. Okay, package. So we talk like TCP, IP, and then the network will be the IP datagram delivery, so including address, routing, okay. And for the really physical layer, the link will deliver the frame, like handle error, or drive the physical transfer, okay. So through the different media, okay, we do have optical fiber, copper, okay. So different way to transfer. And slightly more example of different protocols we're using in the internet layers. And for the application, if you heard about like SMTP, IMAP, so here will be for the mailing, okay. And then we have the HTTP, and then we have some like DNS, RTP, okay, something like streaming SMP, okay, um, TFTP, so it's like the file transfer protocol, all these. And for the transport, including the TCP, UDP, SCTP, so all these will be using for transport layer. And most of the time when you see highlighted in red, that means more, that's what we focus on more, okay. And then we have network including IP, ICMP, like IP set, okay. And if you see these terms, maybe you When you're using the VPN, so you will see, okay, are we using which like method, like encryption with like which method? So that one is on the network layer. And we do have some like link level, like including Ethernet or like different wireless standards. Okay, so put a lot like AO 2.11, okay, DSL like the dia or like ARP, L2TP, okay, and something like ISDN or something like GPRS. So some of them just like wireless on the cell phone and PBP. Okay, so all these are physical connection. And we know we talk about the reliable or unreliable service, right? So TCP will carry more reliable service, including the email, SMTP, IMAP right here. So one is like receiving and sending, okay, and then one sending. And we including the web, so we also using the TCP, so HTTP, just be careful. And if we want to provide the better, there's some better efforts of service, including DNS or media, like streaming, we know the RTP, we say. So UDP, okay. So when we ask the question, because if we don't care, especially for streaming, because, okay, even we lost one package, it won't affect, okay, any content. But if we lost a package for the email, okay, then maybe we cannot like display the whole email correctly, then it causes a problem. So here's the issue, like how we can determine using TCP or UDP. And as well, I cover say, so you know, like compare TCP or UDP, so you know, like kind of slightly what's the differences between them. So one is like reliable and one is like unreliable. Okay, so even though we say unreliable, but they do have some advantage in certain like circumstance or like certain situation. We better using that one. So we need to choose. And when you're studying computer science or like learning programming, actually, here's the one key concept you need to know is like, what's the trade-off? Okay, trade-off that means that, okay, we know we have product A, product B, surface A, surface B, or like different language. They do have some advantage and disadvantage. So we have to pick the better one for certain situation or for your project. So here's a key idea. So far, just like summarize everything. So just need to know we cover was the web and internet and talk about the structure. And sometimes we talk about the structure. Okay, we do have 7 layers, and right here in the graph, are just showing 4 layers. Okay, that's more important for the web programming. Okay, and just remember like application layer right here, just go back like application layer will be the HTTP transport layer. We're using the TCP, and then we using the IP, okay, for the internet layer. Of course, link layer, we are not really concerned about that. Okay, for the infrastructure, we don't have to care about that. Okay, and I would like to show you one thing right here. Okay, so it's called the distributed network. Right here, distributed web infrastructure. So from our client, okay, sometimes like when we sending a request to the server, and of course we'll go through different nodes, okay, different gateways. So right here you see the router. So router right here it will be one of the gateway. Will go out and then we pass through that like DNS server. If you remember, like it's one of the server. We can pass it and then we match up the A record, and it will match with like, okay, for this domain it matches to which IP address. Then we know like which one. So later we have different algorithm later. I'll talk about the one of the example is the Nginx is the help us to handle the request, and then we can also use the Nginx to implement the load balancer. Okay, right now you see the terms load balancer. It's not the main focus of our web programming, but I recommend you need to know like in reality we do using load balancer. If you have a multiple server, maybe your server located in different location, then you need to use it. Okay, so it helps you to manage the workload. Okay, and then we maybe have multiple server, all these server, including we say the web server Nginx you see. Okay, and we do have application server. Sometimes maybe we have some application files, okay, to handle it, and then connect to the database server. Okay, for example, we are using the my MongoDB instead of MySQL, and then we can connect it. Okay, and in the application file, here's a Python. We are using Node.js. So later, I will show you how can we implement the Happy.js to implement application server. And um, if you want to learn another one, it's called the Express. It's also really popular API server we can use. Sometimes you see the lamp or right here we call and that was a lamp. Okay, so LEMP. So it's a name terms. I would like to show you right here. It's called the Nginx. Okay, and Nginx will be right here. Later, once you set up because I will give you the configuration, I will show you how to configure the Nginx. Okay, but in this moment, you just need to know. So it pronounced like Nginx right here. So it's a HTTP web server. So it can provide the reserve like privacy and content cache, load balancer. When we talk about load balancer, TCP, UDP, proxy server. Okay, we can provide the mail proxy server. We can configure all these things. Okay. And later, when we search it, you see the lamp and lamp. Okay, so right here, so it's a combining the Linux. L is stand for like Linux, E for Nginx right here, and MySQL database, or if we can change it, like right now we're using the MongoDB. Okay, NoSQL, then we can call it, and then P is the PHP. Okay, we we still need to know like PHP. Actually, we are going to use it to like when we install it, we are using the PHP for configuration for the caching. Okay, for the caching the service. But in lots of server, like maybe for I cannot say old school, but nowadays maybe still lots of server using PHP server. Okay, so maybe still exists. Okay, and but the trend or right now we are always using the latest language firmware to build our website, our server. Okay, so we try to provide better performance, lightweight, okay, easy to configure, easy to manage. That's what our target, and then that's the industry needs. Okay, and hey, so far that's it for this lecture. Thank you.